Lab 5 is continuation of the amortization calculator. Today we're going to look at the Java code behind. Okay, so let's first look at the amortization schedule so that we have an understanding of what the calculator is supposed to do. In Lab 4, we created the UI and we used a table layout. We created our table rows to create the user interface, and it was a 3-column configuration, 1 column, 2 columns, and then 3 columns. We created all the labels that were needed, underlined in red, that I'm showing you right now, and then we allowed for user input. So here's my running example. I put in $10,000, 12 months, which is 1 year, at 12% interest, and the payment then per month would be $888.49. So the first month, and this is the area where the schedule is going to print out for the first month. Here's the breakdown of the amount of interest that the bank would collect, and the principal, which would be the amount that is being applied to the total loaned amount right there. So that gives us then a loan balance right there. So what I like to do before I actually have it running is to make sure that I kind of know known values, and using that when we look at the amortization schedule when it prints out month by month. The breakdown is right here. I kind of show you that, and this is always good to test your work to make sure that it is working properly. It breaks down the interest in that center column month by month, so you can see the interest starts out high and then starts to decrement as over the life of the loan. The monthly payment amount is static; it doesn't change. But what, and I could have put another, I guess, column in here for the principal, how much the principal is being decremented each month. But it really, all it is, you just subtract it from the payment amount, and that gives you the principal. So 888, 0.49 there. If you just take $100 off of that. That would then give you the principal, and then that gets deducted from whatever the current balance is of the loan amount to give you that new value. So I think it's really important first to understand what you're building before you actually build it. So now that we have a good understanding of the logic and the code behind, let's put it into practice and actually add that. So the overview of tasks that we need to do. First thing is we'll import the classes that are needed. We'll then create our class level variables. In the onCreate, which is the method that fires off first, we'll add anything that needs to be basically set up for the application when it goes to run. Then we'll create that button listener class, and we'll have it handle 2 things, the clear button and the submit button. So the clear button will clear out all the user input. The submit button will actually run the amortization schedule so that we can see it on the device. The next thing is the submit button. When it is clicked, we want to actually check input values, so we want to do that to make sure everything was entered properly. Then we'll start to calculate the monthly payment. That's the first order of business. Once we have the monthly payment, then we can actually start to create the monthly schedule breakdown of interest and principal. And then we'll run the project. We'll check the values that they match what I showed on the first slide. Okay, so let's start out. We need to open up the main activity.java file, And we got to think about what import classes we need for this project. Now, since we're using some of these things like button and edit text, and we're going to have a toast, which is our pop-up message, these are the things that we're going to need. So the first order of business, you probably have some imports already in there for the menu item, maybe the bundle. Just select the view, the on-click listener, the button, edit text, and toast, and just make sure that you have those in your project. So I'm going to switch over to Android here, and I'm going to open up the last project that I had opened up, which was the Oak. And while that's opening up, okay, great. Okay, so what we want to do is go over to main activity, and let's zoom in a little bit so we can see it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is right here, we're going to do our imports. Our second thing that we're going to do, we'll basically create any class level variables that we need. Third thing, we're going to add anything that needs to be initialized when the app is created. And then the fourth thing is we're going to add basically a new area in here that's going to handle our on-click listener, and that's going to have all our logic in there. So we've got a few things to do. So let's expand the import, and I already have it in my clipboard. So I just added these. What is that, 5 classes, and notice they're ghosted out a little bit. That's because it's saying, hey, you're not using these, and we're not, because we haven't put in a code that's going to use those particular classes yet. So don't be concerned with that. It's just trying to be helpful to let us know that they're currently not being used. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is create our class level variables, and if we want them to be seen in any of the methods that are below here, right, all we have to do is put it outside of those, right underneath the class area is probably the best place to do it. All right, so some of these variables that we need, we want the loan amount entered by the user, the loan term entered by the user, the loan interest rate entered by the user. So those are really just the 3 inputs we're taking from the user and putting them into these edit texts. Then we have the monthly payments, right? And then we have the monthly scheduled payment information. So how much they're going to pay each month, and then the particular schedule. So these are just the inputs that appear on the UI, and we're going to add those. So there are some of our class level variables. The next thing that we need to do is in the onCreate, we have to add a few things, right? So let's go to the onCreate here, the onCreate method. And when we're in the onCreate method, what we're trying to do, we're going into the resource file, right? That's the R file. We're going to get the loan amount edit text. Now, you have to make sure that how you set up the identifier for these widgets match that. So when we were doing this on the UI, if you name them something different, then they're not going to be found. And it also, everything has to be right on the XML text for it to actually dynamically create the R file. All right, so we're telling it to find view by ID, so it's going to try to find the IDs, and we're just getting the loan amount, the loan term, the loan interest, the loan payment, and the schedule off of the UI. These are all edit text type, and I put them into, and ET just stands for edit text, and I just gave them names. So that's not too tricky. Pretty easy to do. Now the next area here is the button listener, because we want to set up a button listener for our 2 buttons, clear and submit. Right now it's underlined in red, so it's like saying, well, where's your button listener? Well, we haven't created the button listener yet. That's going to be the next step. So that's why this is underlined, or not underlined, but that's why it's in red color. So what we'll do, we'll try to find the view by ID. And again, we look in the resource file for the submit button. We're going to set up this listener, set unclick listener, and we're doing it for both buttons. And that will fire off our class that we're going to create next. So that's our next step, is to create the button listener. Okay. So let's start that. Now just select any open area there. Don't put it inside of a method, because this is a class, right? So zoom in a little bit. This is our class here, okay? And again, it's going to implement on click listener. And notice once we started to create this, this will also not be read anymore, not trying to give us a warning. Now, if you match up the curly braces, you'll see this curly brace here. When we kind of look at this, here's the curly brace for this one. So we've still got a few curly braces missing, and I'm not going to put them in right away because we have more code to actually add. Okay, so let's switch back over to kind of see where we're at with this. So we put in the class level variables needed for the project. That worked out pretty well. And we then, in the on create, we added the 5 edit texts that we needed, and we set up the button listeners. That looks good. Next thing we needed to do was create the button listener class. So we created the private button listener, BTN listener, and it implements on click listener. Right? So it's implementing on click listener. Then inside here, inside this class, we created a method called on click, and it's using a view type. So this is what's going to handle when it is clicked, which we established would be the clear button or the submit button. So the first one that it's looking at is, it says if view, right, which is right here. When we look at this, if view, which is being passed into this, if view, when we get the ID, this is the equality operator. If it was the clear button, then what we're doing here is we're basically just clearing out some of the UI edit text fields. We're zeroing all this out to start fresh, or we're just clearing it so the schedule doesn't have anything shown. And again, we're just doing the loan amount, the loan term, the loan interest, the payment, and the schedule. All right, so that's where we're at right now. We have the first setup to look for the clear button. So the next thing that we want to do is set up a little logic so that we can handle the other button. So the clear button, yeah, I think we have that one down. What we need to do now is handle if the submit button is clicked. Okay, so the way the logic works, if this area is clicked on, this is the clear button. The submit button, then this is the area. If it has else if the view get ID, right, using the equality operator, the submit button, if that is clicked, then this area will execute. So all we're really trying to do here is check for valid input. So the 3 fields that we want to check for the input are the loan amount, the term of the loan, and the interest amount. So we're looking to make sure that the loan amount here and the loan term, right, and the loan interest. I'm saying get the text, we're converting it to a string, then we trim it. That removes any spaces in there. We get the length. So the length will tell us if there's characters in there. So if there are no characters in there, then the equality of it equaling 0 means that they did not type anything in. So then we use the toast, which is just our pop-up window, and we're using the method make text. I'm saying enter a loan amount, and we just basically show it. And I do this for all three of those input values. So for the enter term amount and the enter interest amount. These are required fields, so when they hit the submit button, we want to make sure that there's actually values in these three required fields. Okay, good. So we have that. Let's go back to. Okay, so this is the PowerPoint, and it's showing those three input checks, and that's very important. We stepped through that. So the next thing is we want to make sure the loan amount can be parsed into a double. So we check to make sure that that there was values in there. Now we have to make sure that they actually put in a double, an integer, and a double. So that's what's going to happen now. Is we're going to check to make sure that they entered a double, an integer, and a double, because for us to perform these calculations, we have to make sure. Now, some other things we're going to be doing is they're going to be entering the years, so then we're going to be getting the months, so we're going to multiply that, and we're going to try to get a percentage over here, because we're going to calculate the interest from 100%, and the total price of loan is the first one. So let's go through that. Okay, now one thing you have to watch is your curly braces. All right, so just be conscious of where you're at with the curly braces. So here you can see that's a curly brace code block. All right, so just watch when you're doing this. You just want to keep an eye on making sure that you close everything that you need to. Now, we're not going to close it just yet. So, because this one is, we'll keep that one over there. This else if is still open, because if all these things pass, right, if they do have values in here, we want to keep going. The return will kick out if there is if there's no input there, if they forgot to type something in, that's what the return, it's kicking out of this if. So let's continue on. Now we're going to do some of the value checks. Okay. So to kind of break it down, right, up here, that was checking for required, right? We're checking for required fields. Now what we're doing is down here, we're checking to make sure that what they typed in was the proper type, whether it was a double, whether it was an integer, or the last one, which is a double. And we're doing a little bit of not really calculations, but we're doing a little conversion on it. So let's step through it. So the price of the total loan, here we set up a new variable called DB loan amount, and I'm just using Hungarian notation so that I know this is a double and this one is an int and this one is a double just by prefixing them. I then use the parse double that will take this string value and try to parse it into a double type. Then if the loan amount is less than or equal to 0, I let the user know that you can't have a loan, right, that is 0. So, or, it can't be less than 0. It's good. The loan has to be greater than 0. So again, this would kick out, and it would first toast the user, which is a pop-up message to tell them, hey, what you typed in isn't proper. And that's pretty much the same thing you're going to see below. For the integer, I'm parsing an int, right, instead of parsing a double. And then I multiply it by 12 to get how many months that we're going to be dealing with. For the calculate interest, I divide by 100 to actually get the percentage. And again, I parse double. Okay, good. So that's the next section that we're looking at. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. We only have really two more sections left. This section here is the formula that will get the monthly payment. That's really the first step. Once you've verified all the input is good, let's make sure that that we can calculate the monthly payment. Now, this is the formula that I'm showing right here. It's kind of ghosted out there because it's a comment, but this is the formula, and then this is the implementation of that formula. So if you look at it, you know, you have the loan amount, the rate, right? And from all that, we're kind of creating this. So we take the loan amount, which is right here. Then I'm using the math library to get the power of something. So we're going to use the power of something, and that's kind of what needs to happen here. We get the loan interest. We divide that by 12, and the loan term, and then we multiply that by the loan interest. And it's a little complex. That's why I give you guys the formula. Then it gets divided by what happens inside of this brackets here. You take 12, multiply again math by the power of 1 plus the dB loan interest divided by 12, and then we've got the loan term minus 1. So it looks pretty long, and it kind of is, but this is really the formula that you want to follow, and this is the implementation of it. So that should give us the monthly payment if we do everything right. And really all we're doing is plugging in the loan amount, the interest, and the loan term, and you just got to kind of follow along with that formula. Once we have the monthly payment, what I'm doing is I'm putting it on the inside of the edit text field, loan payment. I use the set text method, and I do a little bit of string formatting. So what I'm doing here, this formats it so that it's a dollar layout, and then it has 2 decimal places, and that's kind of how I do that. And this is the value that we just got over here from the monthly payment. So we should see something, at least we should see like 888 if we put all those same values in. But that's all we really performed at this point, is calculating how much the monthly payment is. We still need to get the schedule. So let's jump over. And right below this, I'm going to put that in. Now notice there's some red underline here, and that's because we still haven't finished up closing all these curly braces. So just hang on and we'll get to that point. But this is the next section that performs the monthly payment calculation. All right, so we only have one section left, and then we're done. So let's get that and talk about that. Now that we have the monthly payment, what we need to do is actually get the month-by-month breakdown of the interest and the principal. So for that, we're going to need some iteration. And this is our looping structure, and it's going to loop through, right, using this for loop. So the for loop just kind of starts out with the first month, and then it says, okay, well, we're going to increment that month, right? and we're going to then check, is it less than the loan term? So remember, the loan term was typed in, and then we converted it into an integer. We multiplied it by 12 to get the number of months. So this is going to go through month by month. And all it's going to do then, there's a small little formula in here. We're taking the DB loan interest, we're we're dividing it by 12, and then we're multiplying it by the DB loan amount. That gives us the monthly interest. And remember, if we have the interest, all we have to do then is subtract it from the monthly payment to get the principal paid. Then what I do is I concatenate all of this into one big string, the STR schedule. I put a label of month, then I put the month that we're currently on, because this is going to increment 1, 2, 3. Then I put in a new line character so that it'll go to the next line. We put in the interest. I format it with 2 decimal places and a $sign for the monthly interest. Then the total principal paid, put a label in front of it, and again, $sign, 2 decimal places. The loan, again, $sign, 2 decimal places, and the DB loan amount, and then again using new line characters so that it looks nice. Once we have this string and it goes through all this, after the for loop is done, I just use the schedule. This is our ET schedule. I say set the text of that schedule. So once it's done, it's going to show us the schedule. Now, really the only thing we have left is we just got to put in some curly braces. So we just got to kind of match it up, and I think we need 3. And if you look at the lines, they're a little light, a little tough to see, but you know, we had the outer one, which was our class, then you had the other on-click one that we needed. So when we look at this, the for loop needed 1, right? You could see that. Then this, if we go back up, that was for our else. We needed to close that. And then after that, that is right there. That's our on-click. And then the last one is right here for our button listener class. So just make sure, because I know that's always a tricky part for students, is to get the code blocks closed properly, but I think it does a nice job showing it. All right, so it looks good. Let's see if it compiles. Let's try to run it and see if we can get some values. It's going to need to start it up. I'm going to just bounce back to the PowerPoint real quick and show you. We put in all the iteration that we needed for that. I'm going to launch the emulator. And this is what we should see. We want to put in known values so that we can verify it's working. And you know, we should see for month 1, if we put in the same values, 10,000 for the loan amount, 1 year, 12% interest, we should see it calculate the payment of $888.49. Okay, so let's put in 10,000, 1 year, 12% interest, and then hit submit. It calculated the correct monthly payment. Remember, that's static, that doesn't change over the life of the loan. And we see month 1, it has 100, which matches our grid layout, and the amount of principal, right, would just be subtracted from 888 to give us a new loan amount, and it is 9211, which 51, which looks right. And if we want to scroll down, right, we can. There's month 3. So month 3, if we just kind of match it up, it looks right. I see 8415, 8415. I see the principal, 804, The loan amount 7610, 7610, 80. So again, I'm left clicking and I'm rolling up. So left click and roll up, and you should see all the months. Okay, so that is the amortization calculator, and I hope it worked well for you. And if you have any issues, you can send me an email. Thank you.